It's time to talk to Blizzard. We asked Blizzard about the 12.0.5 disaster in an interview with Paul Cubitt. Here we go, Associate Game Director of Blizzard. Let's get to this one here as Taliesin and Evitel have an interview here with a high-ranking member of Blizzard, talking about all the shit that's gone down, balancing, and lessons.
Your efforts to help us in these dark days brought you to my attention.
A massive void energy has appeared up against the...
Oh, no.
Right, I've had enough of this.
Hey, why didn't he show my thumbnail? What the fuck? What the hell, Taliesin? All right, whatever. I guess I'll get over it.
This. I've got to get some answers.
Is that Blizzard HQ?
Hello, Internet. My name is Taliesin.
And I'm Evitel.
And we are here with
Yeah,
Paul Cubitt.
Hello, everybody. Nice to chat with you.
First of all, do you mind us asking about the rollout of the latest patch, 12.0.5?
For sure. Yeah. So we put out a, well, at the time that we're recording this, we put out a little message last night just talking about how, there were more bugs than we thought was acceptable in this patch. And so we heard loud and clear from players. We agree. I know I've chatted with you guys a bit about this as well. I come from a background in QA, and so I don't like seeing bugs, and we've been taking it really seriously. The team has been focused on making sure that we
Understatement
address
of the month,
issues as quickly as possible. In fact, most of the large issues that the community has pointed out have been dealt with, and so again, we take this really seriously. And when these issues tend to come up, the best thing we can do is we'll fix them quick, and then identify the potholes that we fell into,
so
and pave them over
again.
so that we don't fall into them again.
Yeah.
And that's sort of what the team is focused on now, is identifying where some of these issues came up, and then not letting them happen.
I mean, the other patch is coming soon, 12.0.7, like we talked about this morning, probably releasing early to mid-June. So they got another shot at trying to get a patch out without being completely bugged.
I love the 8-week patch cadence that we've kind of settled into in WoW. It's always gives us something to look forward to.
Yeah.
Do you think there's an element of the very fast release of content and always having new content to come out that kind of affects the QA of that a bit?
I mean, right now what we're doing is we're doing a lot of data gathering. So a lot of these bugs, we sort of identified where they came from pretty quickly, and others we're sort of doing the deep dive to figure out where they come from. And that comes into the conversation. We're looking into everything to see how can we make a less, have fewer bugs escape. We gave some examples. This might be getting a little bit into like the nitty gritty of some of these bugs, but I think a good example sort of shares like how we ended up with one of these particular bugs, and that's looking with the Void Forge. Mm-hmm. There was a case where the Void Forge was giving duplicate items. You were supposed to not be able to give the same items, and this was a bug which the way that we have our testing and PTR set up right now is actually sort of like unfindable in QA and unfindable in PTR, because the way it works is there was just a bug in code. It happens sometimes. Humans write code. They create bugs sometimes. There's a bug where the punch card, which
He's trying to say that humans write the code, not AI. That's what he's trying to emphasize there.
saves what you have gotten from a particular boss, is being saved to a realm as opposed to the entire realm list, the entire region. And so in test, in our PTR realms, our PTR is just one realm on one realm list. In our QA setup, our QA is one realm on one realm list. On live, it's many realms on a realm list. And so
yeah, I feel like they keep using this Void Forge one as an example of why things went wrong, because Jonathan, thank you so much for the Prime, man. Thank you so much for the Prime. Death Knight of our Scourge, I always appreciate the Primes. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate that. I feel like they keep using this Void Forge one as an example because it's like one of the ones that they couldn't have really caught. Like they're trying to point it out, like, look, guys, we couldn't have. This is not a quality assurance issue or anything. This is just we couldn't have known. How could we have known? We test on one server, and all this, and the real game is built up of many realms. So how could we have possibly known? This is not our fault necessarily. We'll make sure it doesn't happen again, but this wasn't really our fault. Where a lot of the other bugs were their fault. Like they were simply just, you should have known. You should have caught this in testing. And I feel like that's why they keep going back to the Void Forge example, because it's a good example of one that, maybe it's not really their fault. Now they know, though.
This is sort of where that bug came from. We identified it pretty quickly and put a stop to it. But in the
I agree,
future,
Jamal.
what we need to make sure is
Yeah, I agree.
it's not okay that bug can't be found before we get to a live environment, right? And this is the first case where we have had a bug in that sort of class of bug. So this is the type of thing that we're looking at in a lot of these cases is making sure that, okay, that was an escape. It's unfortunate. Make it right with the players, and then move on to get to a place where it won't happen again.
Yeah, I wonder if there's something to do with the, because I know a lot of people who view the PTR as just kind of, or beta as like early access, as opposed to reporting bugs.
Right, yes.
Right? So I wonder if that requires maybe a bit of like also a perception shift in kind of the community being like, oh wait, actually, we do need to keep our eyes peeled for those as well, right?
I mean, for a lot of folks, it's okay to use PTR as early access a little bit too if you want to be able to test stuff out. And I'll also point out, we have a lot of really good testers among our community of players who do report a lot of stuff on PTR. So we do see a lot of results. That's why we continue to keep running PTRs, is because we see a lot of good results. But something like this just would never have happened on PTR because of the architecture of how it's built. And that's what we need to.
Yeah, and that's why he's
be able to
using this
address.
example.
And just for the record, I would accept multiple puzzle boxes if that had to happen. You know, I'd take it.
Okay, noted.
How do you view the 0.5 patch in terms of a season? Because I kind of see it as the halfway point, I guess. And
It's like the 1/3 halfway point for sure. Yeah, it's our first check-in after the big story drops, right? So, and that's not even necessarily the case for Midnight, because we've had stuff sort of rolling out every week almost up until 12:05. You know, we've had a couple different raids. We've had story.
As far as content goes, I think 12.0.5 is all right. Like for a 0.5 patch, I do feel like there's things to do. Now that they're not broken, maybe there's things to do. I think ritual sites are cool. I think the assaults are all right. You know, they're just another iteration of Legion assaults, which, Legion invasions, which were the real cool first time we saw something like that, honestly. But overall, for a 0.5 patch, I feel like there's things to do. And the Void Forge is an amazing add to the game now that it's working. Overall, I think it's doing what it's supposed to do. And that's kind of like, giving a little boost to the current season and getting us ready for kind of towards the end of the season with this 0.7 patch coming out.
That sort of continued, and then that final raid ended with a little bit of an epilogue as well. So we've tried to make sure that there's always been this feel of like, next week on World of Warcraft, you have something to look forward to. But 12:05 is where you get that next big beat happening. And so this is sort of Void escalation, dealing with more, the Void assaults, and also opportunities to just take something a little bit more off the beaten path with things like decor duels and stuff like that. So, .5s, .7s are always sort of fun opportunities.
I haven't done
to
decor duels yet.
Continue to push with the raids and dungeons and delves that you've been playing with, and play with some fun new toys as well.
And looking back on season 1 so far, how is the general feeling in the team about the 3 raid structure of it and the way that released? How did that go down?
I like it.
There?
Really excited about the 3 raids. I think that we saw when this was sort of pitched internally within the team from the Encounter team. They said we want to make 3 raids. At first, we told them they were crazy, but then thought about it. I was like, no, that's actually really cool. There is a couple different ways that these raids are split as well. There's the Void Spire versus Chimeras, which is one thing, you're just having 2 different places to go. But then there's also that extra raid, which comes a couple weeks later, either a week or 2 weeks later, depending on which difficulty you're talking about, with the March on Koldanas. And those were both experiments in and of themselves.
I know the raid release, basically, the way they did it kind of hurt the Race to World First, but I thought it was great. I think it's fun. It made the game feel new for longer. Like this whole patch felt like a longer patch with more content to do in it because they were tiering out the raid releases. And I thought it was enjoyable. Like, we did them all on normal. So we were progressing on normal as the new raids were coming out. And we were clearing them as they kept dropping them. And I thought it was fun. I thought it was a cool way to do it. And yes, the Race to World First. Yeah, fuck the Race to World First. I don't think they should base the way they make the game on how good they can make Race to World First. I think they did the right thing here with this tiered raid release, and I hope they keep doing it.
Trying to see how players would feel playing both of them. And I think they both went pretty well. Like, early designs for the March on Koldanas actually had it coming a week later. We had some more story that we wanted to cram in between the two. But then as we shared our ideas loosely with community and said, here's what we're doing, we heard a lot of feedback that, Gosh, I hope they're not that far apart because this will, harm the pacing of my own raid's progression or race to world first, which a lot of people care about as well. And so, and that ended up adjusting sort of the tuning of that. So, lots of positive feedback. Lots of things that we're looking at is like how can we do even better if we decide to do split raids in the future as well.
Is it on the cards to do it again in the future?
I don't see why not. I mean, nothing specific to announce at this point. We're still only in 1205.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think it was. I think players intended to like it. So yeah, if the story makes sense and the setting makes sense, why not?
On a purely personal level, I think you made the absolute right decision by having the March of Calvados come out when it did.
Yeah.
I think, like, from our raid's point of view, there was a real sense of momentum and kind of urgency with it all, which was fantastic.
There was also something really magical about seeing the world change, like after kind of completing the raids and seeing the environment change and the music change and everything.
I actually did like that a lot, and I thought about it after I was looking at old screenshots that they released, when Midnight was coming out, and they were all like darker versions of Silvermoon, right, with the big void portal over. Remember, those were the first like screenshots we got of Silvermoon coming out with the new version of Silvermoon. And now we're not playing in that anymore. We've advanced past that. And I noticed it the other day. I was looking at the pictures. I was like, oh yeah, Silvermoon looked like this with the expansion launch, but it doesn't anymore because we finished the raid and the big void well shit is gone now. So I think that was a really cool thing, and it makes the game feel more alive and immersive.
You have kind of more plans on seeing that in the future in the game?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, this was all sort of, I mentioned it earlier, but that next week on World of Warcraft feeling is something that I think means a lot in a live game, where you have a lot of people interacting in a social space, interacting in a shared space, and seeing like the world change together as you all progress through content together, or just time passes together. And I know that's also a touchy subject because a lot of players can be really sensitive to what feels like, well, I know that raid is in the patch, so why can't I play it now, right? It feels a little bit arbitrary. But if it's part of the story, and if it's tied in some of the spectacle like you're talking about with the skybox changing and the beam of war between the Sunwell and the Voidstorm going off in between, that it sort of rationalizes the decision to say like, no, actually like the whole serial rollout of this content actually like is paying
Makes
off and
sense
doesn't
for the
feel
story,
arbitrary, or at least for not for most players.
Not for the raid, for sure, yeah.
Yeah.
What about gear? Generally, the gear progression in this season has been the fastest, the most efficient,
it's
you
better.
could say.
It's much better.
Of any season I can remember ever, and with so much potential for gear coming from Mythic Plus, and the way that affects kind of what you get from
Mythic Plus is easier than it's ever been. The loot system is better than it's ever been. The crest system, finally, getting rid of the Flight Stones / Valor Stones, better than it's ever been. The Void Forge even makes it better with the rerolls. Everything they've done, even the Catalyst charges and how they made that achievement able to loot more Catalyst charges, all of it's, I think, been a step in the right direction. I think gearing right now at Midnight is some of the best that we've had.
raid and how relevant that would be. Are there any thoughts you can share on how that's gone?
Yeah, it's gone a little faster than we expected. Not a whole lot faster than we expected. And actually, if you break it down, you can see that players who are at like the highest end aren't really gearing much faster than they have in the past, but players sort of in the middle of the bell curve in terms of like average item level are going a little bit faster.
Interesting.
And what that means is people are getting to their item level goals.
They made it more
quicker.
accessible.
And so as we roll into things like 1205, we have things like the Void Forge come out. This is where we want to make sure that like, well, if you're motivated by I want to get stronger gear, I want to make my numbers go up, then having opportunities like the Void Forge to make your gear stronger feels more valuable. And also we have a new feature called housing, which is also like it adds another sort of
obligatory housing
for players as you get to that point where like if you aren't someone who is as motivated by gear or is as equally motivated by gear as say like your collections or decoration or whatnot, that point and later on in the season where you do sort of reach your item level goals is a really great opopportunity to say like, actually, you know what? I got some other stuff I can work on now. And I know a lot of people, myself included, feel like, well, I got to get my gear to the point first before I can play with those toys. And so having an opportunity to gear a little bit faster may open up some more windows to play the game a little bit differently.
It sounds interesting, that player housing. I'll have to check it out. How do you feel about that, Evie? Because for me, the gear progression and the speed of it has been one of those things where, on paper, I don't like it.
Yeah.
In practice, I've kind of really liked it.
As a player who typically doesn't run keys, as like an open world enjoyer, as like a delve enjoyer, it's been really exciting to get to a point where I feel like I can actually jump in and start doing high level keys, not necessarily being carried by my pocket healer. So that kind of like gear progression has been really, I
wouldn't know what it feels like to be carried. I don't never do that shit on stream. But that's the whole thing, and I think the raising the middle of the bell curve, like he was talking about earlier, is because they've made the game more accessible to a lot of people. And I'll go back to it, and I'll beat this stupid ass drum again. Removing add-ons from the game allowed them to simplify the game. That's the thing, is like it really did. It really allowed them to simplify mechanics, make things easier, and not have to worry about weak auras just fucking making everything dumb as shit and making the game a mindless game to play. So I think they made it more accessible. Even the new thing with Sora Dormu's vision or whatever, the thing that helps tanks know the path through Mythic Plus, they've just created they've dropped a lot of barriers to entry to Mythic Plus. And by doing that, they've helped the gear progression a lot in the game for a lot of the regular Andy players out there. You know, I mean, clearly, Evatel is Greg from accounting, too. I mean, she's a Greg. She just did delves all the time. Now she's dabbling in Mythic Plus. I'm sure maybe Greg will, if his abusive wife lays off of him for a little bit and actually allows the man to enjoy himself from time to time. He can actually get into some Mythic Plus as well.
Who might dabble in more like casual content. I feel like that's kind of opened the doors for them, maybe as like a stepping stone into something a little bit more challenging or difficult. The thinking about housing, which is a great feature, you should check it out, Tally.
I will, yeah.
Yeah, we were excited to see decor duels coming. And that just feels like a feature that was maybe born out of like, hey, we have housing and we have PvP. Like, how do we bring these two very disparate communities together? Can you talk a little bit about decor duels? And then also, are there any ways, maybe unexpected ways, that player housing has kind of affected systems
Decor
or development
duels.
in WoW?
For sure. So yeah, decor duels is absolutely the marriage of two very different characters, right? It's housing and PvP, but it's not the first time we've done that. We married transmog and PvP first, right? With Trial of Style, yes. So which remains my favorite form of PvP in the game to this
Ruthless,
day.
yeah.
But decor.
Calling Trial of Style PvP would be offensive to the PvP community, I think. But yeah, sure.
Duels gives it a run for its money as well. Yeah, I mean, this is just another thing that sort of was born out of the team when folks were looking at what cool things we can add in some of these patches, which aren't necessarily tied with our battle versus Xal'atath or any of the stuff that's going on with Silvermoon and whatnot. And something which it was like a prop hunt. Makes a lot of sense, particularly in a world where we just added a whole bunch of props in the form of decor. Yeah, we've seen a lot of people having a lot of fun with it. I know I played a bunch throughout this week, just doing a lot. I'm not very good at it.
But gotta play Hunter. It's much easier than I hear.
Well, it was for a while, sure. Yes, but maybe not as much anymore. But yeah, yeah.
He's talking about the bug where hunters were able to use their track humanoid ability to actually see where people were. That was freaking hilarious. I can't believe they didn't see that one coming.
Sort of a passion project coming from the team. As far as housing, I mean, housing's inspired a whole bunch of gameplay. I mean, one of the things that I was most happy with was a particular quest which came up, I think 2 weeks ago now, which is just your housing weekly, which shows up in the main cities, which a couple times it's been like, hey, go deliver the mail. It's been go pick up some pets. This one it was like, go host or have a party at someone else's house. And we saw so many awesome player stories come out of this particular one where, I know, speaking frankly, I hadn't spent a whole lot of time in other people's houses, and I was like, well, let's just hop into LFG, look for a group. And I found a great group of people who were like, the guy had an awesome house. Everybody was, I love what you did with your dining room. There was one guy who got himself stuck in this fella's bookcase, and I used my priest life grip to pull him right out. I was very lucky I was there.
Nice to use your life grip every now and then. Yeah, that's me done for the month. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, those types of experiences, sort of like, are really happy to see those, and looking for more opportunities to maybe engineer more reasons for people to want to maybe hang out with each other in houses and whatnot in the future.
Likewise, I have a very fun story about
A lot of unwanted orgies resulted from that quest, I assure you.
That quest, but I'm not going to share it because it is nightmare fuel. But I also will not hear slander about the postal quests. They're brilliant. There is a lot of excitement at the moment about the
Flex Mythic rating.
Flex one boss raid coming in 12.07, and what kind of doors that could open in the future. Is this like a test bed for that really, or is there an idea that could kind of evolve into something else?
It feels like a test bed, doesn't it? Yeah. I mean, we for sure have heard all sorts of feedback. I mean, this is
Unlock Mythic rating. For the love of God. Unlock Mythic rating. It's unfucking real that this thing still has a lockout that lasts the entire week. Just because of Race to World First or something, just keep the lockout until Race to World First or the first 100 guilds get the achievement, and then unlock it. The reason why Mythic Raid is so hard to get groups for is because people are reticent to join a pug because they're worried they're going to get stuck on a stupid lockout where they could only kill the first boss. If people knew that you could just, run it with your guild and then run it with a pug and not worry about the lockout effect, one lockout stopping you from doing it with the other, people wouldn't care. But what ends up happening is anybody actually skilled in Mythic raiding is not going to join a pug. They're just going to do it with their group because if they did want to join a pug and actually help a pug out, they're going to get locked out. If they remove the lockout, you'll have way more poople and people doing Mythic raid.
Coming from inside the house, so many people working at Blizzard even say like,
this
my
is
raid
good.
is
It's a good
exactly
start.
the
Flex
right
rating.
raid for something like this Fungarian one boss Mythic Flex raid, where we complete AOTC and then we would go farther, but we just don't quite have the flexibility to either get the extra people or to bench a couple people, or we can't reliably seat 20 for what is normally required for Mythic. But that difficulty feels right for us, and so this is an opportunity to say like, well, what would that feel like in a place which is like in a little bit of a off the beaten path, in that it's like pretty late on in the season where this boss will come in? We'll be able to see how we can build that and how players feel with it. Does it feel right? Does it feel too easy? Feel too hard? And then assuming players like it, then who knows where we go from there.
That's really good to hear. My raid group is that raid group, right? So it's like, we can't, and it's the thing of we can't cut down our team. It's like cutting one of the Beatles. You couldn't do it, right? So it's like for us, we're all really excited about that.
Players have gotten better and better at knocking down heroic raids, and so after the game is out, it's the players' game. They're telling us we need something a little bit harder than that, just without that pesky 20-player restriction. So that's what we're looking at resolve on.
A little more question. You were talking about the story earlier, and there's been a little bit of concern in the kind of corners of the internet that I hang out in about I don't want to call it the reunification of the elves, but the kind of the teaming together of the elves in the season 1 story, and the idea that any kind of like lingering resentments or kind of problems that they might still have will be kind of put to one side as we move on to other parts of the expansion.
Yep.
Can you speak to that at all?
Yeah. Well, first, I have a feeling maybe we hang around in similar corners of the internet, because I've seen some of that feedback as well, and for sure, I think it's well founded. So, story that's told in campaign is the campaign of WoW at least is like pretty linear is not the right word, but like serial. A number of things happening in a particular order, and it's meant to show a lot of the big moves and shakes that happen in the world of Azeroth. And some pretty big moves and shakes happen at the end of this chapter of Midnight, where not only do we deal with the threat of the Void Storm and the threat of the Darkwell, but also the elves overcome some of their long-held rules, particularly in Silvermoon, about some pretty hard-held beliefs about how close we will allow Void Elves to get to the Sunwell itself, and also some ancient not ancient but old and again like hard-held difficulty between Silver Covenant and between the Sunreavers. Yeah. So
I the reunification of elves is what it is. It did feel like it moved really quickly, but specifically I feel like the Night Elves joining the fray, like that was a cool quest line, exciting, like the March of the Ents. Remember when I was playing through that on stream, it was a fun moment. But I did feel like the Night Elves joining just felt like really, oh, you guys need our help? Sure, why not? Kind of thing, when there's actually all this like completely different belief systems. These elves were literally banished from the Night Elf lands because of their love for magic, and now we're going to come help you with your magic well. She did briefly say, like, maybe the Sunwell should be shut down, which made sense. The Night Elves were like, you know what, we'll help you, but you got to shut this shit down after. And then they like retcon that on themselves. They're like, actually, no, it's fine. You can keep it as a Dawnwell. We threw all of our shit in there, and now it's a prettier hue of yellow, so you can actually keep it. That whole thing made no sense to me. I was like, wait a minute. You were so headstrong on like, hey, we got to get rid of this shit, and that's why we'll help you, because we're a kind of an anti-magic people. We're like lovers of nature and shit. You got to quit playing with this magic. And then they help them, and they're like, actually, you can keep the magic. It was just kind of like, oh, that was kind of a flip-flop there. That's the execution part that I felt like this could have been over a longer period of time. Maybe it would have made more sense.
Well, if you play through sort of the epilogue quests, you will see for sure that like not all of that tension has been diffused. There's still some like very much insinuations of like, okay, we'll light this torch together. We will work together. But if you step over the line, then all bets are off. But what the campaign is meant to show is that like we've sort of crossed the threshold and like, okay, we're going to try to work together. But campaign can't get into all the nuance of all that stuff. And so I would continue to like, if we're looking for nuance in terms of how elves will continue to interact with one another, either on positive or negative terms in the future. And this could also be extrapolated not to elves, but to any sort of groups in the world or any of these types of stories. Look to local stories, look to zone stories, look to those little interactions that you see in town where someone interacts with you in an interesting way. That's where you'll maybe see some of that nuance come out.
Yeah. Did you hear that, guys? Please play your side quests.
Exactly, yeah. If you are not sojourners, pause this video, get to work, and come back when you're done.
Team Sojourner. Although I have to say that
Yeah, I mean, I think at least doing the stay a while and listens helps a lot with the lore. I always enjoy those.
I don't think I was alone. Maybe you noticed this in our corners of the internet as well. The crushing disappointment I felt when the promised Amani customizations turned out just to be hair colors and skin colors. I get it,
Playable
but
Amani
I think a lot
trolls,
of us
come
really
This is an
had
interesting
our eye
question
on
he's bringing
some of
up.
those cool kind of like orky rigs for. Is that pie in the sky? Is that never going to happen, or could it maybe happen though?
We'll keep listening to feedback. I wouldn't hold your breath for any time super soon. But yeah, this was sort of an opportunity for us to play with
Maybe
a
end of
customization
expansion.
that we don't really do in quest rewards or in achievement rewards. We haven't done a lot of this. I mean, you can point to some of the things with the Minari skin for the Draenei, but that was also its own like specific quest line, which was focused on this. This was more on like, what's a cool thing we can do for completing the Zulaman? And we haven't really said like, well, customizations for a particular character, a race in the game is something that could be unlocked. And so looking for player feedback on it. It sounds like for you, at least, it was you were hoping for a little bit more.
I don't think I'm alone. But no, yeah, for sure. But
I don't get where the decision making comes from when deciding which race to add to the game. I don't understand. Like, in what world did it make more sense to give us Harnir than it did to give us Ethereals or to give us Amani trolls? Like these races that have been, we're not going to give the player base like these races that they've grown attached to, that they have a love for, that they've asked for a long time. Instead, we're going to create this new hybrid race and give them that instead. What the hell? I don't understand. I feel like it's such an easy win, and they're like, we don't want to win. They just keep saying, we don't want to win. We just want to do what we want to do. I don't know. Maybe we still get them at the end of the expansion. Who knows?
I just love those chunky boys. They're so great.
I mean, Tally's got his mind on character customizations, and I think that's fair. But I really, really am excited about the new Keystone achievements.
Yeah. Can I bring up the Keystone Myth thing?
course.
Because I was absolutely very excited, and still am, about Keystone Myth. I think it's a fantastic idea. We were all looking for a higher tier of kind of reward in Mythic Plus, I think. A little bit of a tepid reaction to the mount reward since they've been announced. I know you're introducing a mount reward for the title as well, the 1% title. But I think there's maybe a little bit of disappointment with the Keystone Myth rewards.
Yeah. So, I mean, we continue to listen to feedback on rewards for things like this. And when it comes to mounts in particular, we're always pretty cautious about making sure that we understand the double-edged sword that is giving out unique mounts for very difficult achievements, because there are also mount collectors out there that will look at that and say, like, oh, that's actually a huge disappointment for me because I know I'm just not going to or capable of reaching 3,400 or whatever the high level achievement is. And so putting something that's super unique in that it is a double-edged sword. There's pros and cons to putting something unique versus something which is more of, in this case, there are opportunities for players to earn maybe things which felt like they were some legacy mounts that were no longer.
I think it depends on how to animate and how difficult they are to animate. You tech team, you're talking about which races they add to the game. I agree the difficulty does go into it. Like that's why we don't have necessarily like playable Naga or maybe Sethrak. Maybe those, because they were built on a little bit different rigs, maybe. But the Amani trolls seem to be built on an orc style rig, even if it's altered a little bit. So I feel like that's an easy implementation, and they could do it. Even the Latuskar, that's one people have asked for a lot. This is built on a panda rig. So a lot of these races are like an easy, like, check the box. We can just add these to the game. The rigs are already basically built up, but they won't do it. Like, they'd rather give us something else, which is the Haranir, who are built on a Night Elf rig, too. Like, they weren't anything crazy new.
You're accessible that now you can get into with those saddles.
Now I can't wear shoes or pants.
We're going to continue listening to
neither
feedback. This is the first time
so.
that we've done Keystone Myth, and
That's
so
not a thing.
We don't necessarily have to have a locked-in approach for seasons moving forward.
It got me to jump back into Mythic Plus again straight away. As soon as I heard about it, I was sort of like pretty much done. I'm just doing my vault every week, and then instantly I had that motivation to try and climb again.
Yeah, and this is also in response to like players hitting their goals. Again, we said players hit their itemization goals a little faster than we expected. Same was true for Mythic Plus goals as well. Like we saw either people hitting Keystone Legend or on trajectory to hit Keystone Legend maybe a little bit sooner. And so I would call this out as sort of a success of the team looking at this and saying like, oh, we can do a little bit better. We can actually get this in. And if you've been following PTR, it came in pretty close to the end of PTR, if it even made it onto PTR at all, this Keystone Myth achievement to be able to give you that motivation and a bunch of other players motivation.
Yeah, the achievements,
the new achievements are Mythic Plus. I just sort of hit my goals already. To add another goal if you are incentivized or if you want to keep playing, this will give you that carrot to keep playing before you eventually retire to your house and start decorating that.
How do you feel about tuning this season? Certainly with tanks, it does seem a bit more skewed than usual, maybe, or is that just me vibing it wrong? Is it kind of that?
Look at the fucking Brewmaster, my God. Oh my God. I play Blood DK, and I only play Blood DK, and I don't give a shit. I'll play it till the end, even if it's the worst class in the game, because, my skill is going to make up for that. But my God, the Brewmaster right now is just by far and away king of the castle.
Actually normal, because there's usually a tank that's way out ahead, but Brewmaster
They've been shit for a long time, true. I'm happy they're getting their time.
Brewmaster's a little bit ahead right now. I mean, that one, I think we're still working on tuning. Typically what you see in a season is at the beginning of a season, you have actually like a pretty broad distribution of different healers and different tanks that people are playing. And then as you get later on, then metas inevitably form, and that's inevitable and also arguably healthy for a social game for people to sort of agree like this is the way that we've agreed to play together and whatnot. But the A meta for tanks in particular came out a little earlier this season, and so the solution, like the pure absent existing players playing in the game right now, solution would be like to bring Brewmaster down, but that wouldn't be the right decision.
I was scared to bring it up because I'm so glad to see Brewmaster have its moment in the sun, like finally, and be like the absolute boss that it should be. So please don't do that. What
likely ends up happening is we make light touches to Brewmaster. We also make light touches to the other tanks to bring them closer to within band one another, and aim to do this in a way which is
buff the other tanks.
As little disruption as possible.
I think that's the best way to go about it. Yeah, is buffing. A buff always feels better than a nerf. So buffing the other classes to bring them closer to Brewmaster, I think is the right way to go, rather than nerfing Brewmaster, who they're not breaking the game in any way. They're just by far the best tank right now.
But ultimately, like we measure success.
Yeah, they could still die
exactly based on our folks capable of hitting sort of the places that we've set as our major goals for the game. Am I able to complete Myth 10s? Am I able to get this, plus 10s? Am I able to get the Keystone Legend, Keystone Myth? And as long as we're able to do that with all the tank specs, with all the healer specs, then that's one of many metrics we use to do this. But we're going to keep tuning in a way that is as non-disruptive as possible.
And one last quick question, because we're here in your house and I don't want to stay our welcome. Lots of speculation about 12.1. Obviously, we know you can't give anything away about that, but I've got a feeling. I've just got this feeling it might be a good idea to set our Hearthstones in Zulaman for that one. Is that advice you'd recommend, or
is it because you just enjoy the view off the coast, or like what is the
view off the coast is really good, really intriguing.
I would say if you enjoy the view off the coast, then setting your Hearthstone for Zulaman is a really good place to set it.
It's good enough for me.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, great seeing you as always.
Cheers.
Yeah, thanks everyone.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. They said this is in his house. I was like, damn, his house is the fucking size of an office building. Jesus Christ. But anyways, nice video overall. Interesting stuff that he said. I wouldn't say anything like mind-bending. It wasn't like a hard-hitting interview. They kind of asked him some easy questions, and he answered them. Patch shit, we already know what's going on there. And what's coming in the future, that's an interesting one. Yeah, I think Isle of Fangs pretty much confirmed. We're getting the Amani troll patch. The only thing I didn't really like he's talked about was the next race. I mean, I can't believe they're not going to add Amani trolls sooner, but it is what it is, I guess. Interesting interview. Nice one here from Taliesin and Evitel.